Basically, he's saying, what do you do about the bedroll, the cushion, whether it's for sleeping or sitting on a hot mass? He's been using a pile of various blankets and covers that pile up to about 4 inches. Oh God, Dan, I can't open that email right now while I'm streaming, but thank you. But I won't be able to do it right now, so I'll get to those later. So, uh, so, um, Rich is talking about using multiple comforters and sleeping bags that pile up to 4 inches, and he's got 12 different blankets piled up. And he's wondering, what suggestions, materials for use, some examples. And then he sent a follow-up email that says he's been doing some research with regards to combustion temperatures, and he found that 300 degrees Fahrenheit was, roughly where you might start having spontaneous combustion type issues with some textiles. And so I think it's a really good topic, and I'd love to address it. So when I first started using my J-tube, I was pretty enthused about the concept. How should I say it? My concept was, excuse me, guys, I gotta just check this real quick. Yeah. My concept for the pads was that I really felt like I wanted natural fibers on top of my bench. I really felt like that was my first inclination, was that when this thing heats up, I don't want to be off-gassing polyurethane, foam or whatever it might be, foam internals as it warms up. So my goal was to try and use natural fibers. Now, my first J-tube was, as you guys know, kind of a corner with a J in the center, and so it was possible for sparks to pop out of that firebox and land potentially on the benches. So that also, informed my decision about what I was going to use on the benches, because I obviously didn't want anything there that was flammable and would be, subject to catching a light should an ember pop out when I wasn't paying attention. So those are kind of two different things, right? Like what's going to be able to comfortably stand the heat of the bench top without off-gassing anything dangerous or posing any risk to combustion. And if you have a J-tube and your J is adjacent to your bench, is there a chance that sparks could get onto the blankets? And if so, then the material needs to be appropriate for that as well. So let's just tackle the first one. Sparks on the blankets is a different issue, and I think that as I've progressed, I now have a different point of view, and that is one of not letting that happen. Whether it's the blankets are moved and they never are left near the J-tube, they're just pulled over when you set there, or whether there's some physical barriers, or whether you don't have them at all. I just think now, in hindsight, I never had any problems, but in hindsight, I just think that's probably, too big a risk to take, to leave unattended, which I felt at the time too, but I don't think I ever really nailed it down and went, here's the rules, take the blankets off when the fire's going if you're not around. But let's approach the first question, which is the padding, the cushion on top of your mass. And so as Rich found, 300 degrees is sort of a rough number for where things might start combusting. I felt like, much lower than that starts to cause issues with smells and off-gassing, and then really just sitting on it. I mean, you can't sit on it when it's 200 degrees, let alone 300 degrees. You don't want to, obviously. So, with all that said, there's a couple things to tackle there. So, the first is that and Rich adds, great, Rich, thank you. The hottest temps I've seen on my bench surface are around 190 under the bedroll. So, that's really comparable to my experience, Rich. When I'm cranking when I'm burning that stove super hot because it's cold out and I'm burning it for a long time, if my bedroll is down covering, then I can approach 200 degrees under there. But like I said, as soon as you start to get up there to that temperature, first of all, you start to not really be too comfortable sitting on it for more than a minute or two, or a few minutes. And second of all, you start to smell it. And even if it's cotton or wool, you don't smell it burning, but it smells like a dryer, right? It starts to smell like a dryer, like warm cloth, warm fabric. And when I'm burning that hot, it means it's cold out. And when it's cold out, I'm trying to get the most heat into the space. That's why I'm burning that hot. So my solution, and it's not even a solution, it's just it's a natural action I take in those temperatures, is when it's that cold out and I'm burning that hot. In other words, when my bench could be that hot, I almost always peel back. In my case, I just fold up my cushions to expose the masonry surface of the bench in order to get more masonry radiating heat into my space, in order to get more heat into my space, to take more heat out of the mass more quickly, get more heat into the space more quickly. And in that way, you are basically, you can control, now this is aside from the material of the bedroll, but it plays into it. You are controlling how much radiation, how much heat you can put into your space via how much exposed mass you have. And the more you keep that bedroll on, the more the top gets hotter, but what that does is it pushes the heat down. If the top's hotter, then this is hotter, and this is hotter down lower. So you're actually pushing heat down into the sides, and that's why it's nice to have that cover on there. You'll actually heat up more of your mass, and you can open it up and release it. So, with all that said, point I'm trying to make is, I've never heard of cloth material spontaneously combusting on top of the masonry just from contact. I haven't ever heard of anyone even really having an issue like smoke or char or anything. I have gotten mine pretty hot. And mine, the question that Rich really asked originally was material. What's the material that you use? And I'll be honest, Rich, I've come around. You can see behind me that those little tan rectangles under the pillow there. Those are like an outdoor chaise lounge cushion from Costco. It's foam inside with Sunbrella fabric on the outside. And I used it because I had it and it just fit right there, and I haven't bothered to make anything else. In the past, I would always use wool blankets, usually like big Pendleton wool blankets that I would pile up and roll up and make thick on top of there, or old army blankets. And I thought those worked great. But come to find out that the foam seems to work fine for me. And whenever I start to get even a hint of the smell of it, I just flip it up and it, the bench cools off.